The 13 colonies in North America began as separate places. Each colony had its own government, each had its own way of life. They were all ruled by Great Britain, far across the ocean. For many years they thought of themselves as Virginians, or New Yorkers, or Pennsylvanians. They did not see themselves as one people. But things started to change. The British government began to pass laws that the colonists felt were unfair. These laws often involved new taxes. The colonists had no say in these taxes. This made them angry and worried. They felt their rights as Englishmen were being taken away. This shared unhappiness started to bring them together. They realized they faced similar problems. One colony alone could not stand up to the mighty British Empire. They needed to work together. They began to communicate more. Leaders from different colonies started writing to each other. They shared news and ideas about how to deal with Britain. This was a new thing. Before, colonies often had disputes with each other over land or trade. Now, a common enemy was pushing them towards a common goal. This was the first small step towards a shared identity. It was a slow process, but a very important one for their future. The term United Colonies started to appear. This was a big step. It showed they were thinking of themselves as a group. The First Continental Congress met in 1774. Delegates from 12 colonies came. Georgia did not send anyone at first. They talked about what to do about British actions. They agreed to boycott British goods. They also sent a list of complaints to King George III. Using the name United Colonies in their official papers was a clear sign. It told Britain and the world that these colonies were now acting together. They were no longer just separate outposts of the British Empire. This idea of being united grew stronger. The British government did not back down. Instead, tensions got worse. Fighting broke out in places like Lexington and Concord in 1775. Now, the colonies were not just talking about unfair laws, they were fighting British soldiers. This shared struggle made their bond even tighter. The need for a collective identity became urgent. They were no longer just protesting. They were moving towards a much bigger decision. They were moving towards declaring themselves free and independent. This would require a name for a new nation. The Second Continental Congress gathered in Philadelphia. The year was 1775, and then 1776. The fighting against British forces was now a full-blown war. The delegates knew they had to make a very important choice. Should they try to fix their problems with Great Britain, or should they break away completely? Many still hoped for peace, but King George III declared the colonies in rebellion. More and more colonists started to believe that independence was the only answer. The time for simply being United Colonies was passing. A more permanent and powerful name was needed for what they hoped to become. On July 4, 1776, a momentous event occurred. The Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. This famous document did more than just list the reasons for separation. It also gave a new name to the emerging nation. The delegates declared that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states. And crucially, they referred to themselves as the 13 United States of America. This was the first official use of this powerful title. It marked the birth of a new country. The name itself was carefully chosen. It spoke of unity, but also of individual states. The name United States of America was very significant. United showed that the former colonies were now joined together. They were forming a confederation. States was also important. It meant that each of the 13 former colonies was now a sovereign entity. They were not just provinces of a new central government, they were states with their own powers. Of America clearly located this new union on the American continent. It distinguished it from European nations. This name represented their hope for a new kind of government. It was a government where states worked together for common goals, while keeping much of their own authority. However, being truly united was a challenge. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1777 and ratified in 1781, was the first governing document. Under the Articles, the states kept most of the power. The central government was weak. It could not easily raise taxes or enforce laws. So while they had a name, the United States of America, making that unity real was hard work. The states often acted like separate countries. They sometimes argued over borders and trade. The early years under this new name were difficult. They showed that just having a name was not enough to create a strong nation. Over time, people started using a shorter name. America became a popular way to refer to the new nation. This was partly for convenience. The United States of America is quite a long name to say or write all the time. America was much simpler. It was also a term already associated with the continent. European mapmakers had used variations of Amerigo Vespucci's name for the New World for centuries. So America felt natural as a shorthand. It also helped to distinguish the new nation from British America, which referred to Canada and other British holdings. This informal name, America, spread quickly. It appeared in songs, poems, and everyday conversation. People spoke of fighting for America's freedom. They talked about the future of America. This everyday usage helped to build a sense of common identity. While official documents still used the full title, America captured the spirit of the new country. It was easier to feel an emotional connection to America than to the more formal United States. This popular usage ran parallel to the official name. Both served different purposes, but contributed to the idea of a single new entity on the world stage. The weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation became very clear. The young nation faced many problems. It had war debts. There were trade disputes between states. There was even unrest, like Shays' Rebellion. Leaders realized that a stronger national government was needed. So, in 1787, delegates met in Philadelphia again. This time, they came to write a new constitution. Their goal was to form a more perfect union. They needed a system that could truly unite the states. They needed a government that could act for the whole nation. This meeting was crucial for the future of the United States. The Constitution of the United States, ratified in 1788, solidified the nation's name. The very first words of the preamble are powerful: "We the people of the United States." This phrase was a big change. It suggested that the new government came from the people of the nation, not just from the states. The Constitution established a federal system. It gave more power to the national government, but it also protected the rights of states and individuals. Importantly, it consistently used the United States as the official name. This document gave the name a permanent and legal foundation. It was the framework for a stronger, more unified country. The preamble to the Constitution was a powerful statement. "We, the people of the United States," was a clear signal. It showed a shift. The focus was moving from a league of states to a nation of people. This helped to build a stronger sense of national identity. People began to think of themselves more as citizens of the United States. Their loyalty was not just to their state, it was also to the nation as a whole. This change did not happen overnight. It was a gradual process. But the Constitution laid the groundwork for this important evolution in how Americans saw themselves and their country. Over time, another small but symbolic change occurred. In the early days, it was common to see the name written as United States. The hyphen suggested a collection of states that were united. As the 19th century progressed, the hyphen began to disappear. People started writing United States as two separate words. This might seem like a small detail, but it reflected a growing sense of the nation as a single entity. It was no longer just states that happened to be united, it was United States. This linguistic shift mirrored the strengthening of the federal government and a more unified national consciousness. The nation's identity continued to evolve. It truly transformed from a collection of separate entities into a unified power. Major events shaped this. The War of 1812 helped to foster a sense of national pride, but the most significant test was the Civil War. From 1861 to 1865, the nation fought over the very meaning of united. The victory of the Union decisively settled the question. It affirmed that the United States was one nation, indivisible. After the Civil War, the sense of a single, powerful nation became much stronger. The states were clearly subordinate to the federal United States. In conclusion, the name United States has had a remarkable journey. It began as a practical description. It described 13 colonies that decided to unite against British rule. With the Declaration of Independence, the United States of America became a formal title. The Constitution then enshrined United States as the official name of a new republic. Over many decades, through challenges and triumphs, this name transformed. It changed from a simple label for a loose confederation. It became a powerful symbol of national unity. It now represents a strong single nation with a shared identity on the world stage, a far cry from its humble beginnings.